Hi, everybody. This is Jimmy. You're reading with Jimmy. We're reading the quick take of The Wife of Bath's prologue. This is Geoffrey Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, subtitled by Jimmy Experience, Power, and the Woman Who Won't Be Silenced. Welcome, everybody. What if the most talked about character in all of the Canterbury Tales wasn't a knight, a monk, a scholar, but a woman with five husbands, a sharp tongue, and no time for hypocrites? Well, that's the wife of Bath. What a wonderful character. And before she tells her tale, she gives us a confessional, a sermon, a kind of performance, all rolled up into one unforgettable prologue, which is really long. But if you read it with Jimmy, it's going to be great. This is the 10-minute quick take of that prologue where we want to distill the literature in 10 minutes so that you can take a deep dive along with me and read the whole thing, which I hope you do. So let's unpack that prologue of The Wife of Bath about a woman who rewrites the rules. Now remember, this was written a long time ago, way before cell phones, television. So, what's the story here? Well, the wife of Bath introduces herself with this prologue, which is nearly twice as long as her tale when she tells the tale. It's kind of an autobiography, a manifesto, a document that's really unsettling now, even if you read it now when you read it with Jimmy, as it was in the 14th century. Remember, this is a long time ago, and we're going to talk about why you should still be reading things from a long time ago. The main character is Allison. That's her name, the wife of Beth. She's been married 5 times and she knows scripture. She knows her Bible, but she shapes it to her will. And she wields her experiences like a weapon. She's a cloth maker by trade, very good one. So, what really happens in this prologue? Well, it's basically kind of like I said, a manifesto. She opens up by flipping the hierarchy of knowledge upside down. In those days, men had the high ground, right? The monks were the only ones who were educated, etc. But she says she relies on her experience, not authority. She doesn't need anybody to tell her to speak her truth. So what follows is a personal history of her 5 marriages, how she's controlled her husbands and how she's controlled by them through guilt, through sex and stories. Yes, sex, ladies and gentlemen. Hmm. Sound familiar these days? A critique of discrimination in religious texts, especially how male writers like St. Jerome, who used to weaponize scripture to shame women. You don't believe it? Read St. Jerome. A philosophy of marriage that's about economic exchange. It was a marriage of economics. People don't do that today, do they? They don't marry because somebody has money, do they? Emotional dominance. Maybe there's some people who want to die. And then the art of negotiation. This is a flashback to her fifth husband, Jacob, who beat her after she ripped his book apart. But then that's the one she claims to have loved the most. This is an exciting story, this prologue. Their volatile rubber band, Jimmy uses, loves that analogy of the rubber band, which you should learn when you read the analysis, is a relationship filled with tension. This woman really tells it like it is. So, what's the big deal about Chaucer? Well, he doesn't just give her a tale, he gives her the stage, center stage in this prologue. She uses it to dismantle the male dominated discourse of her time, which means males dominated, right? Women were mostly secondary citizens. That's not always true in classical literature. That's why you need to read classical literature with Jimmy. For example, Lysistrata, the Greek play, is on this website, and there, Lysistrata, who's the Greek heroine in that play, is a wonderful, wonderful example of women who take control. So the prologue reads like a stand-up monologue. It's scandalous, theological. There's a lot of references to the Bible. It's funny, and it's tragic. There's violence. There's violence, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, Jimmy, there's no violence today, right? Yeah? Are you looking around you? It's also feminist before feminism had a name. This is a woman who knows what she wants. She plays the part of a lusty widow, and beneath the surface is a serious critique of gender power and storytelling. What are some of the themes that we'll read together? Well, experience versus authority. She doesn't just need books to tell her what marriage is, she's lived it 5 times. She argues that the personal experience is more trustworthy than truth. This is a very important argument in your life. Do you believe everything you read? I hope not. Experience is what she relies on. And this is a big thing in philosophy, pardon me, which Jimmy explains in the prologue, in the analysis of the prologue. The power in marriage. Who has the power in marriage? The husband? The wife? She doesn't seek equality. She wants sovereignty. You saw that word in another tale in Canterbury Tales, didn't you? But I'm not going to tell you which one. In her view, either the man or the woman must rule. You can't have two kings. Man cannot serve two masters. A great play that we'll read, or if we haven't read it already on this website, is King Lear by Shakespeare. She shows again and again how women can seize the power, and this is the rubber band discussion. If you pull a rubber band, it will break. If you let yourself be pulled, who's in control? That sums up the rubber band analogy, which I will explain in my analysis. Discrimination in religion. She quotes scripture, not that she wants you to obey it, but to outwit it, to prove that sometimes scripture is wrong. Oh, the scandal. She challenges the authority of male clerics who denounce sex, pleasure in women. She uses sex to her advantage. Go figure. That doesn't happen nowadays, does it? She secretly indulges in all three. What? Sex, pleasure, and herself. Ellison makes no apology for using sex to gain control. She says her instrument, it's her instrument in bargaining chip, and she plays it with great skill. You're going to love this tale. Marriage for her is as much a commerce, economics, as it is about affection. And look these days where they have these prenup agreements. And ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy's here to tell you that when a marriage breaks up, 99.8% of the time, I made up that statistic, it's because of money. 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 She also admits that she's manipulative. Yeah, I manipulate people. She's not afraid to say the truth. This is a wonderful personality. And don't forget, you read to see how other people lead their lives and how to lead your own. But she also claims to be sincere. Is she sincere? That's what you'll have to judge when you read this tale with me. So why does this prologue still matter? Why keep around something written so long ago? Jimmy, isn't this dry? Well, she speaks loudly in a world that often silences women, even today. Even today. Just look around at some of the different cultures. Look around at our own culture. Ellison owns her story. She mocks double standards. She speaks her own voice. And not to be liked, but to be heard. She exposes the power dynamics behind intimacy. Yeah. What's love all about, ladies and gentlemen? Whether you agree with her or not, she's going to force you to ask, what does love cost? Everything you do, you have only so much emotional capital, one of my philosophy teachers taught me. You don't have an endless amount of emotional capital. So do you just throw it away? Who controls your desires? Can a relationship really be equal? Really? Religious hypocrisy still exists. Allison's criticism of how scripture is used and misused remain painfully relevant today, especially when men preach purity but practice domination. That's called hypocrisy. Well, Jimmy, there's no hypocrisy in today's world. Where are you living? Email me, jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com. Jimmy@readingwithjimmy.com. If you think you're not living in a world where if you think you're living in a world where there's no hypocrisy, I want to know where you're living. She's imperfect, but she doesn't apologize for her imperfections. She's not a role model. She's not even always likable. Really, when you read this tale, you're not going to like everything she does. but she's real. She's genuine. She's authentic, as they say nowadays. And her contradictions make her timeless. She's the original messy heroine. You know, people are not simple, they're complex. All of us are complex. We're not just one way. When you read Johnny Bear, that's on my website by John Steinbeck, it's a great story of the collapse of rituals and how people can't stand the truth. And she controls her own narrative. This is the world of Canterbury Tales. She's just one who talks the most. So you have to ask yourself, the anonymous narrator who's narrating this gives her the biggest and longest voice. Why does he do that? Calling all readers. Now that you've had the 10 minutes, let's dive into this prologue together, the Wife of Bath prologue, which you'll find on my website. You're already there if you're listening to this quick take, readingwithjimmy.com, or you can go to YouTube where they're stacked up, lining up for you to subscribe to my channel. You can then look at the partner's tale, who's real. All of these tales are rich in personalities, very rich. And remember, you could live to be 300 years old and you will never, ever, ever meet all of the different types of people in classical literature, especially like the Canterbury Tales. So let me leave you with this question. Can someone be both deeply flawed and speak the truth? That's an important question. Can you be flawed? Can you be flawed? We're not perfect, and still speak the truth. This tale is going to help you analyze what is the truth. And I don't want you to walk away like Jack Nicholson and say, you can't handle the truth. I believe all of my readers who read with Jimmy can handle the truth because that's what you'll find on my website. So here's what you'll find. Readingwithjimmy.com contains all of the Canterbury Tales, all of the quick takes, all of the analysis, plus many others by Guy de Maupassant, by Shakespeare, by beautiful writers. Beautiful writers. So I want you to enjoy it. The QR code will take you right to my YouTube channel. Scan it, listen to me while you're, driving, while you're walking your dog, whatever. Because there's so much to understand. I've got a comprehensive analysis of every tale. Every tale I analyze, usually in one part, sometimes in three parts, like with Johnny Bear. There's a three-part analysis for that short story. It's only a short story, but it's so deep and rich. So check out the analysis after you read the tales with me, because we all want to learn as we read classical literature. And remember, unlike A Few Good Men, you can handle the truth. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope to see you when we're reading the prologue for The Wife of Bath together. Thank you very much.